He was 72 years old and seemed healthy by every measure most people use. He walked every morning. He kept up with his checkups. His cholesterol was under control. His blood pressure was reasonably stable. His doctors told him he was doing well for his age. His wife said he was the kind of man who never complained, who woke up ready, who rarely needed medication. But there was a habit he had, a small, quiet habit that seemed almost sensible. After 7 in the evening, he stopped drinking water. Not because anyone told him to, not because there was a medical reason, simply because he hated waking up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom. He felt it disrupted his sleep. His wife mentioned it once, and he answered with the calm certainty of someone who believes he understands his own body, "I sleep much better this way." That night he went to bed as usual. He never woke up. The medical report would say massive heart attack during the early morning hours. The cardiologist explained to the family that his heart had spent hours trying to pump progressively thicker blood while his body slept. That those hours between midnight and dawn, which everyone imagines as the heart's resting hours, can be, for many adults over 60, the most dangerous hours of the day. His wife was left with one question she could not shake. Such a common habit, so apparently harmless. How could that have made a difference? If you are over 55, listen carefully to what I am about to say. There is something happening silently inside the bodies of millions of people while they sleep. Something nobody connects to the heart. Something that seems responsible, even careful, and something that may be creating dangerous conditions exactly during the hours when the body needs protection the most. If you tend to avoid drinking water after a certain hour at night, or if you know someone who does, stay with me. What comes next may change something important. If you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, do that now. Every day there is content like this, the kind nobody explains clearly, that can make a real difference in your health. Now let me ask you something that sounds simple but carries more weight than it appears. What exactly happens to your heart while you sleep? Most people imagine sleep as a period of complete rest. The heart slows down, the body relaxes, everything grows quieter. And in some ways that is true. But the heart never stops working. It keeps pumping blood through every vessel, every artery, every organ, without pause, night after night. And what happens to the heart's work when the blood it needs to pump becomes thicker? Think of a water pump pushing clean water through a pipe. Now imagine that water slowly growing more concentrated, more viscous, harder to move. The pump does not stop. It keeps trying, but the effort increases. The resistance increases. And if this happens repeatedly, night after night, for months, for years, the damage is silent and progressive. This is exactly the mechanism I need you to understand. During sleep, the body keeps losing fluid. Through breathing, through the skin, through the light perspiration that happens even on cooler nights. And if you went to bed already poorly hydrated, that process continues for 6, 7, 8 hours, with nothing to replace what is lost. The result is a progressive concentration of the blood. The plasma volume, which is the liquid portion of the blood, gradually decreases. The blood grows thicker, and the heart, which has no pause button, must keep working with blood that is harder to move. Drop by drop, hour by hour silently, while you sleep believing you are resting. Physiological studies published in the American Journal of Physiology have shown that reductions in plasma volume during sleep can increase markers of blood concentration in the early morning hours. In plain language, your blood may be at its thickest, its most concentrated, its most difficult to pump, exactly when your body begins to wake. But that alone is not the most dangerous part. What makes this mechanism truly serious happens during another process that occurs inside the body in the hours before dawn, and almost no one knows it exists. There is a phenomenon cardiologists call the morning blood pressure surge. Between roughly 3 and 6 in the morning, the body begins preparing to wake up. Cortisol rises, adrenaline rises, blood pressure climbs, heart rate increases. The heart, in a sense, wakes up before you do, and for many adults over 60, this is the most vulnerable moment of the entire day. Research published in the Hypertension Journal and by the American Heart Association has shown that this abrupt rise in blood pressure during the early morning hours is associated with significantly higher risk of heart attack, stroke, and sudden cardiac death in older adults. Now think about what happens when both of these forces meet at the same time inside the same body. The blood is at its thickest. The heart is under its greatest hormonal activation. The pressure is rising. The vessels are under stress. and the heart must push harder than usual through blood that offers more resistance than usual, during the exact window when cardiovascular risk is already at its peak. This is not a rare combination. For anyone who goes to bed routinely underhydrated, this is what may be happening inside their body during the early morning hours, night after night, without a single symptom, without a single warning. Around that same time of morning, a 68-year-old woman woke up. It was 3:20 in the morning. Her heart was racing. She felt dizzy. There was a sensation she later described as feeling like something was terribly wrong, the kind of feeling that does not need words. At the hospital, her blood pressure was extremely elevated. The doctors found signs of morning dehydration. Her cardiologist told her something she had never considered before. Her heart had been trying to pump more concentrated blood at precisely the most vulnerable period of the night. She had always avoided water after dinner, for years, for the same reason. She did not want to wake up to use the bathroom. She arrived at the hospital in time. He did not. And the habit that connected both of them was the same quiet, ordinary, seemingly harmless decision made every single night before bed. Now I want to take you a little deeper, because what happens next inside the body is something most people have never heard explained this way. When the blood becomes more concentrated, it does not just grow harder to pump. It also changes in ways that affect how easily it can clot. Dehydration increases what is called hemoconcentration, a state where the solid components of the blood, including platelets, become more densely packed. And platelets, when they are crowded and activated, tend to stick together, to form clots in places where clots should not form. Research from the Circulation Journal and the Journal of the American College of Cardiology has documented that acute cardiovascular events occur with significantly higher frequency during the early morning hours. This window is associated with increased platelet aggregation, elevated blood pressure, and reduced blood flow. Three conditions that can overlap precisely in someone who went to bed dehydrated. A clot in the wrong place at the wrong moment. That is what most heart attacks come down to. And the conditions that make clotting more likely may be quietly building for hours before anything is felt. But there is a fourth layer to this that almost no one talks about. The heart is not just a mechanical pump. It is also an electrical organ. Every beat is triggered by a signal that travels through the heart muscle in a precise sequence, and that electrical environment depends heavily on a balance of minerals in the blood, particularly sodium and potassium. When the body loses fluid, it also loses electrolytes. That balance begins to shift, and when it shifts, even slightly, the signals that control the heartbeat can become unstable. The result can be palpitations, skipped beats, arrhythmias that wake someone in the middle of the night with a racing heart and a feeling they cannot explain. The Cleveland Clinic and multiple cardiovascular reviews have documented an association between dehydration, nighttime palpitations, and increased electrical instability in vulnerable patients. An aging heart does not respond to dehydration the way a younger heart does. The margins are smaller. What a 35-year-old body adjusts to without noticing can push a 70-year-old heart into territory that causes damage without any warning at all. And here is something that changes the entire picture for older adults specifically. Researchers at Harvard Medical School and studies in the Journal of Gerontology have documented that aging progressively reduces the physiological sensation of thirst. The mechanism that tells your body it needs water becomes less sensitive, less reliable with each passing decade. In plain terms, your body may be significantly dehydrated, and you may feel no thirst whatsoever. This is not carelessness. It is biology. Millions of older adults go to bed routinely dehydrated not because they refuse to drink, but because their body stopped sending the signal clearly. The habit of avoiding water at night makes this worse. It removes the last opportunity to correct a deficit that may have been building silently all day. Some people are at greater risk than others, and I want you to know if you are in that group. If you are over 65, the risk is higher simply because of age. If you have high blood pressure, your cardiovascular system is already under greater strain during that morning surge. If you are diabetic, dehydration affects blood sugar regulation in ways that add stress to the heart. If you have atrial fibrillation, dehydration can trigger episodes more easily. If you take diuretic medications, your body is already losing more fluid than average, and going to bed without compensating may leave you in a deeper deficit than you realize. And if you snore heavily or have sleep apnea, the oxygen disruptions through the night place their own demands on the heart. Now pay attention to what your body may already be telling you. An extremely dry mouth when you wake up. A headache in the first hour of the morning. Urine that is dark yellow or amber first thing in the day. A feeling of your heart beating harder right after waking. Dizziness when you stand up quickly. Leg cramps that wake you during the night. These are not random inconveniences. They are signals. And for older adults, they may be the only visible signs of something that has been happening silently for hours. I need to pause here, because what I am about to share goes beyond what this video alone can address. The four mechanisms we just covered do not operate in isolation. They interact, they compound, and managing them well requires more than one adjustment. If you want a complete and structured approach to protecting your cardiovascular health during the night, the link is in the first pinned comment below this video, and the QR code is on your screen right now. Scan it or click it now before you continue watching. Your heart works every single night without asking for anything. The least it deserves is a few seconds of your attention right now. Think about this honestly. How many nights in the past month did you go to bed without drinking anything for hours? How many mornings did you wake with a dry mouth? How many times did you feel your heart beating strangely in the early hours and tell yourself it was nothing? Millions of people in exactly your situation have spent years making the same quiet decision every night, never connecting it to what they felt in the morning. One of the most consistent and overlooked patterns I have seen in cardiovascular health is exactly this. Chronic, low-grade, nightly dehydration that nobody catches until something happens. If this is speaking to you, do not wait. The link is in the pinned comment. The QR code is on your screen. One decision tonight can change what your heart faces at 3 in the morning. So what can you actually do about this? Because I would never leave you with the weight of all of that, without giving you something practical to carry forward. The first and most important shift is not about drinking more water at night. It is about drinking consistently throughout the day so that your body arrives at bedtime already reasonably hydrated. Most older adults drink most of their fluids in the morning and early afternoon, then taper off significantly. The goal is to distribute hydration more evenly, so the deficit that builds through the evening is smaller to begin with. The second adjustment is a small amount of fluid 1 to 2 hours before bed. Not a large glass. Not enough to guarantee a bathroom trip. Just a modest amount, 4 to 6 ounces, enough to give the body something to work with through the first hours of sleep without disrupting your rest. Many people find that this alone changes how they feel in the morning. The third point is alcohol. Alcohol is a diuretic. It accelerates fluid loss through the night. If you have a glass of wine or a drink in the evening and then go to bed without compensating for that loss, you may be entering sleep in a more dehydrated state than you realize. This does not mean eliminating alcohol. It means being aware of what it does and adjusting accordingly. If you have high blood pressure, check it in the morning before getting out of bed when possible. The morning surge is real, and knowing your numbers during that window gives you and your doctor more useful information than a reading taken later in the day. If you or someone close to you snores heavily, gasps during sleep, or wakes up feeling unrested despite sleeping enough hours, speak with a doctor about sleep apnea evaluation. The cardiovascular consequences of untreated sleep apnea in older adults are serious and frequently underestimated. And if you take diuretics, talk to your cardiologist about the timing. There may be an opportunity to adjust when you take them so that the peak effect happens earlier in the day rather than through the night. None of this is complicated. None of it requires a prescription. It requires awareness of something that has been happening silently, and a few small decisions made consistently. I want to come back to him one last time. He believed he was protecting his sleep. He had no reason to think otherwise. The habit was quiet. It felt harmless. Nobody had ever connected it to his heart. And in those early morning hours, while his body moved through the most vulnerable window of the day, his heart was working against conditions that had been building for years, one dry night at a time. His wife does not blame the habit alone. She knows that health is complicated, that no single thing explains everything. But she said something that stayed with me. She said she wished someone had explained this to him clearly, before that night, in plain language, the way a friend would explain it, not as a warning buried in a brochure or a footnote in a checkup summary. That is exactly why this conversation matters. Your heart has been working without pause for every decade of your life. It has asked for very little. What it needs from you tonight is not complicated. Stay hydrated through the day. Give it a small amount of fluid before bed. Pay attention to the signals it sends in the morning. And if something feels wrong, do not wait. If this video helped you see something you had not considered before, hit the like button now and subscribe so you do not miss what comes next. And tell me in the comments, did you recognize yourself in any of this? Have you been avoiding water at night for the same reason? Your answer might help someone else reading these comments make a different decision tonight. Share this with someone you care about. Not just anyone. The specific person who comes to mind right now, the one who always goes to bed without drinking, the one whose morning headaches you have noticed, the one whose heart deserves this information before it is too late. The next video continues from exactly where we left off today.